Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. Some breaking news coming in. Trump continues the spree of posts on Truth Social. In his recent post, Trump has stated that Israel is not going to attack Iran. Trump added that all the planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Earlier, Trump expressed his frustration on Iran and Israel continuing attacks on each other. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former diplomat, is joining us on the broadcast to talk more about this. Ambassador Dayal, pleasure having you, sir, and thank you for taking out the time to speak to us, sir. Well, it's a yin and a yang situation right now in the Middle East with the ceasefire coming into effect, sir. But, most people are divided whether to believe it or not, whether to, take this announcement for the salt it carries. What does this mean to you? I mean, are the hostilities over? Are these adversaries friends? Is Iran going to have a regime change? Are they going to get along now? Will the investment in the proxy stop? I'm sorry for this barrage of, questions. But the fact of the matter is that, there are a lot of things which have been unsaid.
Well, Vinny, first of all, thanks for having me on your show to discuss this very tricky and important matter. There is a lot of difference between what is being said by all the parties involved and what they are actually doing. Now, Israel and Iran both profess that they are implementing the ceasefire, but both are accusing the other side of violating it. Iran has most recently said that there were 2 explosions in Tehran and that there were also 2 other explosions in North Iran. So Iran is blaming Israel for violating the ceasefire. At the same time, the Israelis are saying that the Iranians are violating the ceasefire. And in fact, the Israeli defense minister has said that because of this, Israel will continue to attack Iran. Now, President Trump, of course, has tried to stamp his authority and to say that both sides will have to follow what he wants. And he has said that Israeli planes must go back. But, the problem is that there is also some difference between what President Trump says and what he actually does. Now, for instance, he had said that he would take about 2 weeks to decide whether the United States should attack Iran. But in reality, he struck after just 2 days. Then again, there are various other things which are going on, which make one question whether this ceasefire can last. For instance, the United States had attacked Iran's 3 important nuclear sites because of the fact it doesn't want Iran to get any sort of nuclear weaponry. Now, has the damage been such that the Iranian nuclear program has been halted? There were reports that because the Iranians expected or anticipated or feared an attack on their 3 important nuclear sites, they had moved out the enriched uranium and the processing machinery out of those places and to some safe location. So has the capability of Iran to manufacture nuclear weapons really been completely destroyed? Then again, there are huge differences between the perceptions of both Iran and Israel. Both doubt each other's intentions. And for that matter, President Trump is also very firm in certain respects. For instance, he had earlier pulled the United States out of this sort of a nuclear treaty with Iran because he doesn't trust Iran. Iran doesn't trust the United States and Israel, and vice versa. So in this situation, how things will pan out is quite questionable. There are huge concerns whether the Iranians will resume attacks, or at the same time, there are concerns whether the Israelis will find some pretext to continue attacking Iran. Now, there is no doubt that the Iranians would not have ended this battle without something face-saving. And in that context, their attack on the American airbase at Doha perhaps was instrumental to, to help them with some face-saving. There are also speculations that the Americans had been warned by the Iranians through the Qataris that this attack was coming. So it was all like showmanship. It was a planned game that the Iranians would do this and the Americans would make sure that their forces were out from there. And all this was meant to give the Iranians some sort of a face-saving sort of plan. But whether it has worked or not remains open to question. Whether President Trump himself will honor this peace deal, the ceasefire agreement, or do something to again attack Iran is something that the Iranians are worried about.
Fair enough, sir. I'll come back to you. Some more breaking news coming in. Well, India has released a statement on the recent developments between Iran and Israel. India says that it remains deeply concerned about the prospects of overall and sustained regional security and stability, adding that it welcomes reports of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel and the role played by the United States and Qatar. The ME has said that it wishes to reiterate that there is no alternative to dialogue and diplomacy in order to address and resolve the multiple conflicts in the region. All right, Group Captain Tapesh Chaudhary, former Indian Air Force officer, also with us on the program. It's very, very volatile at this stage, but Captain Tapesh, what's your assessment of these hostilities? Are they going to cease? Are they going to continue at a different level? Are we going to see a regime change? What are your prospects?
No, the regime change is not a possibility as of now, and America never wanted it also that way, though the deception tactics were played where Khomeini is hiding and etc. I come to one point that I saw this coming, the kind of ceasefire which has happened. Iran and America have combinedly both three choices just before American bombing. First thing, the Israel was persuading America that you have to hit the Fordo nuclear plant because whole world was talking about GBU-57 bomb. Till the time you don't utilize it, this war is not going to end or we are not going to come to a negotiating table. Second thing, America was becoming a laughing stock. One way is talking about peace. Second way, it is threatening the Iran. And people were started talking that because of the so many assets in the Middle East, the Iran is threatening and America is fearful. So Trump, despite the opposition from the Republicans, majority of them, and the majority of the US public out of survey, that America entered into this war, maybe a limited operations, and carried out a limited operation. Now, the play game was that if Trump somehow is able to take Iran to the negotiation or talk table, then Trump will have wahi in America. That is what he wanted to achieve. But problem is that Trump does everything in so haste and so early before the world comes to know. He just tweets it and he doesn't know after that what has happened. So that is first part. Iran has a choice of two things after America. Iran, everybody knows he cannot enter into the full-scale war with America. See, I want to remind you one incident in 2020, where the Qasem Soleimani, the commander of IRGC, was assassinated by the US. And Iran threatened America with serious consequences. However, two bases in Iraq of US were hit with some missiles. And after that, he told that I have sorted out the matter. I have taken my badla or revenge. And now I don't have any problem. So this was also expected because of to face saving or to save the ego that some bases of US will be hit. How much assets will be there, whether US will be aware or not aware, that is a different aspect. However, he told that I have hit 14 missiles because I was hit by the 14 bomb. So this is a face saving. Now, please understand, in between, Iran has also have been telling that I cannot come to the talk table till the time Israel continue to attack me. So I saw this coming. Where once the Iran takes the badla or the revenge from the US in whatever manner, unilaterally Israel will do the ceasefire with America will announce and Iran will come to the talk table. That is how, because Iran has also not continued to sustain these operations, whether closing of Strait of Hormuz or whatever manner. Proxies are weak. So but Iran, the kind of ego Iran has, the kind of hardliners are there in the regime, the Iran has to have a face saving or winning the war. You have already heard the statements from Iran side that Israel has taken the ceasefire because we have won the war, we have hit the Israel hard. However, see, please understand that in case of any ceasefire, it takes the field formations to get the message. It does not happen immediately. It depends upon how the network is flowing in that particular country. So though both are accusing each other, but this ceasefire will settle down. Israel has already told that I will not further fire. And I think we will see till some time, some talk or some negotiation will happen with the help of Qatar.
All right. Well, Israel has killed Mohammad Taghi Yousafzai, the commander of the intelligence unit of IRGC's voluntary paramilitary force, Basij. The Basij is the volunteer organization of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is responsible for maintaining public order, including arresting opponents of the regime and dispersing demonstrators as well. And also, after the recent airstrikes by Israel over Iran, Prime Minister Netanyahu's office has released a statement addressing Israel's latest military operation in Tehran. He said at 7 a.m. the ceasefire came into effect. However, at 7:06 a.m., Iran launched another missile towards Israeli territory, followed by 2 more missiles at 10:25 a.m. All 3 were intercepted or landed in open areas, causing no casualties or damage. In response to these violations, the Israeli Air Force destroyed a radar installation near Tehran. The office said that after the conversation with President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu refrained from further strikes. Israel military destroyed a radar installation near Tehran, and the action came after Iran had done some damage and some violations as well. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former diplomat, still with us on the broadcast. Ambassador Dayal, where do we go from here? The biggest problem that Israel has highlighted when it comes to Iran is the funding, the billions of dollars it has given to the Houthis, the Hezbollah, the Hamas. Is that going to stop as a result of this? Okay, maybe we can delay their nuclear activities and aspirations for a few years. But what happens to this other elephant in the room, sir?
Well, the suspicions between Iran on one side and Israel and the United States on the other run very, very deep. For this reason, Iran will definitely try to once again strengthen Hezbollah and the Houthis, and if also possible, the Hamas. Now, these were the 3 main proxies of Iran, which were keeping Israel on tenterhooks because they were causing a lot of trouble for Israel. And during the war with Hamas and the ensuing strikes against Hezbollah, Israel succeeded in weakening these 2 outfits, these 2 proxies of Iran. And by and large, they have kept very quiet during this struggle which is going on between Iran itself and Israel. Now, the Houthis are still there. They are active and they are threatening attacks against shipping, particularly of the ships belonging to the United States and Israel. Now, certainly, Israel will be concerned about any Iranian activity aimed at strengthening these proxies of Iran. But the effort is being made, certainly, by the United States and other countries to try and bring peace. How successful these efforts are going to be is open to question. The strikes take place mainly at night. So I'm waiting to see whether there are major ceasefire violations during the night that is now going to follow. The defense minister of Israel has categorically said that he is going to authorize attacks against Iran. And the Iranians have also indicated that they are not giving up the idea of retaliating. So the situation is very tense. And this is perhaps what the French president, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, meant when he cautioned that the situation surrounding the Israel-Iran conflict remains unstable despite US President Donald Trump's ceasefire declaration.
All right, more breaking news coming in. After the recent airstrikes by Israel over Iran, Prime Minister Netanyahu's office has released a statement addressing Israel's latest military operation in Tehran. He says that at 7 a.m., the ceasefire came into effect. However, Iran continued to launch missiles towards Israel, and this followed two more missiles at 10:25 a.m. And all three were intercepted or landed in open areas, causing no casualties or damage. Israel also responded, destroyed a radar installation. And of course, there was a conversation with President Trump and Netanyahu, and Mr. Netanyahu has said that he will refrain from attacking further. The action came after Iran, he said, launched missiles against them, which they said was a violation of the truce. All right, this is of course something which is still developing in a number of ways, and we are trying to analyze the situation. But Group Captain Chaudhary, these hostilities, obviously by the time the leaders decide to end them, and by the time the ground forces get to know what's going on with the polity, takes time. Is that the reason why something like this was also seen when Operation Sindoor came to an end through a ceasefire?
Yes. The same thing happened in Operation Sindoor also, where Pakistan, after the ceasefire in the evening, again launched 20-30 drones. So it is possible, because every country is not like India or Israel is so networked that messages flow within a second or within an hour. It takes time for a larger country. How the people are placed, people are in field, people are probably because of the Israel hit maybe out of network. It takes time. However, previous orders are in force, so they continue to do that. So that is a second possibility is also there, because within the system there are some misadventurous people who wants to ignore the instructions for some time and continue to attack. So that is also possibility. It has been seen in the past in various wars. So, but my point is that whether Israel will stop. Your question was Iran will stop or not? Iran will not stop. Iran will have more resolve to further nuclearize itself, because in this war, she has understood that without being a nuclear power, my stakes are at question. Anybody will attack me anywhere. So, taking North Korea example, whatever way, this time maybe through more clandestine approach or through more secret approach, Iran will have a resolve. Second thing, Israel has planned this war beautifully. See, Israel could have waged this war when last year, after the Hezbollah was attacked by the Israel, Iran launched almost 140 odd missiles over Israel. However, Israel took time. See, whenever any war is planned, it is planned with the end state, and no country goes to the war where it has already opened so many fronts with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis. See, all these were weakened to a stage that once I launch a strike on the Iran, these people should not come in their support, so that I don't have to fight war in many fronts. So that is why, if these were the strong people, take an example, Hezbollah and Hamas would have attacked on the ground. What would have been the situation of Israel? So Israel has planned this attack. Second thing, the Mossad has cultivated so many agents in the Iran. They have almost opened a drone factory inside. The kind of pinpoint accuracy the Israel has hit, no country can afford to hit. No, not even US. The way the nuclear scientists and the top army or other commanders have been eliminated. So this was possible because of the planning. Now Israel, only thing must have done one miscalculation, that he must have thought, once I strike hard.
Right. Just hold on, Group Captain Chaudhary. Well, in recent developments, 2 explosions have been reported in the northern area of Tehran following a fresh airstrike by Israel. And as per reports, Israel has targeted an Iranian radar site in Babolsar, Tehran. This comes after US President Donald Trump said that Israel will not attack Iran and their planes will head back to Israel. All right. Ambassador Dayal, Donald Trump, of course, staking a lot, including his reputation here, concerning the ceasefire. Do you think that he's in for a letdown?
Well, Donald Trump has always tried to project himself as a great peacemaker. He had said during his campaign that he would bring peace between Russia and Ukraine within 12 hours of taking over as president. Similarly, he has said that he would end the Israel-Hamas war. These things have not happened. So, of course, when the India-Pakistan ceasefire took place, he took immediate credit. Now, in this particular instance, he is trying to use the Israel-Iran conflict to bolster his own image as a peacemaker. Of course, he has done a number of things which are contrary to actions of peace. Most significantly, I don't think the Iranians can forgive him for the very lethal attacks on the three important nuclear sites in Iran. So, how do things go from here? Well, President Trump does have a say as regards Iran's foreign policy matters. If he stresses to the Israelis that they must not attack Iran anymore, it is likely that the Iranians will take heed of what he's saying. But there is so much uncertainty in the situation because of the mistrust which prevails that things can still go wrong. For instance, the Israelis might say, and they're still saying, they're already saying, that despite the ceasefire, Iran has launched missile attacks against them. And the Iranians are saying quite the same thing. Blaming each other is what is going on. So in this sort of a situation, naturally, the peace sort of atmospherics remain very fragile. And despite President Trump wanting to enforce the ceasefire, there may be many reasons which could upset the apple cart and break the ceasefire. Let's see how things are shaping out.
Fair enough. So, in fact, we have more breaking news coming in. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has assured the Malaysian PM Anwar Ibrahim that it will respect a ceasefire announced by US President Donald Trump, provided that Israel also upholds its terms. They said, and I quote, if the Zionist regime does not violate the ceasefire, Iran will not violate it either. Pezeshkian said that during a phone conversation with Malaysian Prime Minister. And according to Presidency's website, this is a conversation that has been confirmed. All right. Well, Ambassador Dayal, this is definitely assuring that Iran is hoping that this ceasefire is going to last.
But both sides will blame the other in case the ceasefire is broken. Both will say that it was the other one which violated it. No one will take responsibility for breaking the ceasefire. So things are still very fluid. Of course, the good signs are that crude oil prices have gone down, the rupee has gone up against the dollar, and this is all what we want. We want peace to prevail in the region and things to be back to what they were before this conflict started. So let's see how things shape out, but let's also see what happens during the night, because as I said, it is during the night that these attacks have been taking place. So it's important to see whether both sides continue to respect the ceasefire.
All right. Well, the Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, has dialed Qatari counterpart. Iran has stressed Iran's resolve to strengthen relations with Qatar based on the principle of mutual interest. Araghchi said that Islamic Republic will not allow its friendly relations with other regional countries to be affected by the evil acts of Israel and the United States. This comes after Iran's strike on the US base. Group Captain Tapesh Chaudhary still with us on the broadcast. Group Captain Chaudhary, how difficult or different is it, to be friends with Qatar now that Iran has bombed them, considering the fact that, of course, it was a US installation, but it was still another country's sovereignty that they have violated?
I would say that Muslim Brotherhood during the Arab countries will go, whether you are under influence of US or not, the sentiments is always there to support each other. So that is first part. So in this war, neither of or any Arab country have stood with Iran except the Russia, China. But issue is that Iran doesn't have a choice. Now, as far as ceasefire is concerned, is who wants a ceasefire more? That is how the question is. But then we can answer this question whether the ceasefire will stay or not. In my opinion, as of now, Iran wants it more, but definitely on high moral ground. Because Iran is lesser capable as on date than Israel or US together to fight this war or prolong this war. So obviously, once Israel continue to attack, Iran will definitely retaliate. But once Israel stops, so Iran will not target the Israel furthermore. And I think the ceasefire will prevail from tomorrow onwards.
All right, the ceasefire will prevail from tomorrow onwards, and the Prime Minister of Qatar, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman, has said that the ties of Qatar-Iran are scarred but should recover after the missile salvo at the US base. He also said that what happened in the terms of violating the sovereignty of the state of Qatar is unacceptable, and all diplomatic and legal measures will be taken in this regard. We hope that the issue will be contained as soon as possible. Well, Iran has confirmed the death of senior military officer as a result of the Israeli attacks targeting Tehran on Monday. Ali Reza Lotfi, who was deputy head of intelligence at Iran's police force, was killed in an airstrike carried on by Israel. Ambassador Prabhu, while the sovereignty of Qatar has been violated, do you think it will be an easy affair for these two countries to mend these cracks?
Yes, I think they will be able to mend these cracks. The Iranians had informed the Qataris that they were going to carry out this attack. And I think in turn, the Qataris had kept the United States in the picture. So the whole thing was like well coordinated. Iran does not want to appear weak to its own people, to its own forces. If it had not taken any sort of action in retaliation for the US strikes on its three important nuclear sites, then it would have appeared weak. And Iran doesn't want to appear weak. Now what Iran is saying is, look, we won. There are victory celebrations. Their leaders and ministers have announced victory over the adversaries. So it was all intended to do some sort of a play acting. The United States went along, and since it was informed in advance about this impending attack, it was able to take precautionary measures, such as withdrawing its forces out from this base and ensuring that there were no casualties. There were no casualties. So it was intended to let Iran have the opportunity of saying, look, we did the last strike, and they asked for the ceasefire after that. In other words, it really.
So we have more breaking news coming in at this point in time. Well, the Turkish Foreign Ministry has called on Iran and Israel to fully stop hostilities after US President Donald Trump announced bilateral ceasefire. He said, "We welcome the news that Israel and Iran have agreed to the ceasefire. We urge both the parties to fully comply, and the channels of dialogue must remain open." And the Revolutionary Guards say they have arrested a European citizen who entered Iran as a tourist and went to southern Hormozgan province to gather intelligence at sensitive and military sites. The nationality of the arrested person has not been released so far, is what we are learning. And China continues to buy Iranian oil. US President Donald Trump posted on social media and he said that the Air Force One in Air Force One, what appears to be a relief for Tehran from sanctions Washington has previously imposed to punish the trade. China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran, and hopefully they will be purchasing plenty from the US also, Trump wrote in a post on his Truth Social platform as he traveled to a NATO summit in Hague. All right, we've run out of time, but appreciate our guests who joined us and gave in their perspective. We take a short break now. Be right back.